Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Storytelling with Jazz. On this channel, I will be covering true crime cases, and I will also be telling your guys' stories. It can be scary, it can be about something weird you've encountered, it can be about anything. So please don't forget to submit your stories to me to the email in the description box. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome. And if you've been here before, thanks for being a real one. But let's not forget to subscribe to my channel, like today's video, and comment what other cases you guys want to hear about, and comment what you think about today's case. Okay, enough of me rambling. Let's jump right into today's funny, interesting law. Today's law was put into place for the country of Singapore in 1995 when they adopted the anti-chewing gum regulation, which prohibits anyone from chewing gum. Reason being was to keep the city clean and to avoid spending large amounts of money on scraping gum off the sidewalk, which I completely agree with because I think it's gross seeing people's gum on the floor, or even worse is when you stick your hand under the table and touch a piece of gum. So please, if you're going to chew gum, please dispose of it properly. Okay, let's jump right into today's case. Today we will be covering the unsolved case of Elena Sanchez Hawkins. Elena was born on September 3rd, 1962, being 29 years old at the time that this tragedy occurred. She was living in the small town of Elizabethtown, Kentucky, which is approximately 45 minutes south of Louisville, with her husband, Michael Hawkins, and their 2 sons. When Elena wasn't at home caring for her family, she worked as an attendant at a gas station off of West Dixie Avenue. It's stated that Elena often kept to herself. She didn't have any close friendships, and she preferred the company of her family, which I don't blame her, I'm the same way. On the chilly winter morning of January 8th, 1992, Elena woke up bright and early to get her eldest son onto the bus headed toward Lincoln Trail Elementary School. She gave him a big ol' hug and kissed him goodbye and wished him a good day at school before returning back home to take care of her 3-year-old son. Her husband, Michael Hawkins, was at work at a local convenience store along Dixie Avenue in the town of Elizabethtown. He called his home around 7 a.m. to, check on Elena to make sure she'd gotten up and gotten their son to the bus stop on time. But no one answered. At 9:50 a.m., finding it strange that Elena didn't answer, he tried calling once more. Assuming Elena was perhaps busy and had her hands full with morning chores and taking care of their son. On this second call, however, somebody did answer. Instead of Elena picking up and confirming that all was well and that their son was already at school, his youngest son, 3 years old, was on the line. When Michael asked his son where his mother was, he simply responded with, "Mommy's bleeding." Michael immediately rushed home and called the police. Police arrived on scene and reported when they approached Michael, he had a blank expression on his face. When police entered the home and into the living room, approaching the body, they noticed that Elena's hands were tied behind her back and that her throat had been slit, along with other wounds. There was blood everywhere, and it was determined that Elena had died of excessive blood loss. During an autopsy, medical examiners had stated that she had been raped prior to her death. Searching the home, detectives noticed that there was no sign of break-in and that nothing was stolen. They felt that Elena must have known the person that killed her and potentially allowed them into the house willingly, or at least opened the door to check who it was. Police got to work quickly. They spoke to neighbors, they checked through garbage, checked if any evidence was left behind. And of course, like we've heard in many other cases, they had to talk to the husband and rule him out as a potential suspect. Police were able to eliminate him quickly. Detective Rob Foster truly believed then and now that he had nothing to do with this brutal crime. There had been many times that Elena mentioned a weird, creepy man that would show up to her job and give her strange looks and make her feel very uncomfortable. But it is unclear if this man has ever been identified or spoken to. The day after the killing, police set up a roadblock leading to the family's home, hoping that anyone that lived nearby or that drove by the house regularly might have seen anything out of the ordinary the day before. One neighbor that they had spoken to had claimed to have seen a black Datsun pickup truck parked outside of the house and left the house around 7:30 a.m. that morning. which led investigators to search out for any similar trucks, but unfortunately, this lead led them nowhere. They spoke to Elena's and Michael's youngest son, who often spoke about the man. However, they were unable to gather a physical description of the man from the young boy, which I could only imagine was so hard for him to do. He was only 3 years old and had just witnessed his mom get murdered in front of him. Investigators were able to collect DNA from the scene, but with it being the early years of DNA testing, majority of the DNA was consumed during the early testing years. By 2004, authorities spoke up about being hesitant to test the final samples of DNA and had been wanting to wait out the advances of DNA testing again in fear of losing their only true lead in the case. In August of 2008, a new lead developed when a woman in Breckenridge County, which is approximately about an hour away from where Elena lived, was raped and attacked by a man in a similar fashion that Elena was attacked. This woman had been sexually assaulted, and her throat was slashed from ear to ear, along with being stabbed in her chest and abdomen in front of her child. Amazingly, this woman pretended to be dead in hopes that Pine would leave before she was able to call for help. She survived this brutal attack and was able to tell police who was in her home that day. Police quickly arrested her neighbor, 58 years old Ernest Pine. While police were considering Pine to be a suspect in Elena's murder due to the extreme similar circumstances, and also him living in Elizabethtown during the time that Elena was attacked. It's unclear if this lead ever actually led the police anywhere, as updates on Pine seem to end where they began, in 2008. Sadly, in 2004, Michael Hawkins passed away, leaving their youngest son an orphan at only the age of 15 years old. There hasn't been any arrest made in Elena's case, and it is unknown if the remaining DNA has ever been tested in the recent years. Elena is buried in Elizabethtown Memorial Gardens, where she has a light brown headstone with an engraving reading, "She was a beloved mother and a beloved wife." Her brother Danny Sanchez described her to be fiercely loyal and remembers her kindness, especially towards her father, who she loved to sing to when she was still alive. He says that her murder tore his life apart, as she was his firstborn and she followed him everywhere. She was a daddy's girl. Danny still holds out hope that his sister's case may be solved one day, but loses a little bit of hope each year that passes by. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I will leave any important case information down in the description box. I will see you next time on another episode of Storytelling with Jazz. Bye!